scanxiety or scan anxiety, in fact, as a term, that wasn't even around when I was first diagnosed with melanoma back in 2009. And it was only in about 2016 that I became aware of it as a term when I started to join patient peer support groups for people living with cancer, and also the advent of Facebook pages and things like that. But it's real, and it can be crippling. It really can. Scanxiety for me isn't too bad, but I've seen it in other people in some of the cancer peer support groups, and it's quite crippling for them. It's quite debilitating. They feel physically sick just with the anxiety, so they're looking forward and predicting the future, but almost in an unhelpful way, because it gets the better of them. They have no control of it, and that people can be physically ill with it. People start to have what they call unhelpful thinking styles. They start to try to predict the future and anticipate where it's going, rather than take a step back, which is what I try and do, and then to ground myself in the moment and just let the course of events go through, and then have the scan, which is actually the first part of it. So there's scanxiety about even going and having the scan, and then there's that crunch period between when you get the scan done but when they give you the result, and that can be quite a difficult time, and some people have different ways of getting around that.
Well, for scanxiety is for every part of your journey and afterwards, so that because you're on the other end of whatever they're doing and you want to know what's going on with your body, you've lost control of it, really. And I guess once you've finished your initial treatment, every blood test, every mammogram, every ultrasound, every feeling that you're having, that you might have a pain somewhere, you think it's going to be bad news and difficult, and what you've been through hasn't worked. So is it going to work if I have to have more treatment? Well, I guess there's the fear. You're quite frightened of what the outcome is, and although you meet some very helpful and kind people, it's that anxiety of, is it there? And I've got no control over of it moving through my body. You're in their hands and of the professionals, and they're really trying to help you, but each one may discover something that you don't really want to know, and you know that will change a whole of what's going to happen to you in the future. Very vulnerable, feel very vulnerable, and isolated and alone, and a bit of despair. And as you can see, I get a bit teary too. And it's also that you try to self-protect your family and, my daughter and others, your friends, about you trying to have a brave front. Yeah, and that can be hard on you personally, but it's something that I felt I needed to do, I guess, because the rest of the control was taken away from me.
In the early days, I'd get some weird aches and pains, go, has it come back all of a sudden? And I go, hang on, the blood test, there's nothing there. But knowing the blood test could be not congruent with what I was feeling. But I realised that was some mental game going on, so I would do some quick self-talk. But I must admit, I got to the end of 2011, about August, September, and I realised I wasn't mentally travelling well to do with being intimate with my wife, the whole erection stuff. I had struggled with incontinence for a while. It got better, just everyone is different. But I also realised from my perspective, probably in the 12 months prior to that diagnosis of it coming back aggressive, my stress levels have been quite high.
I made a decision years ago in my life that I wasn't going to be able to beat cancer by myself. Yes, I did dabble and look at Dr. Google and try and get my head around some of the issues involved. I had my ex-wife and some other friends and family who were well-meaning in what they did and were passing information and advice to me. But in the end, I basically decided with my specialists at the Cancer Centre in Melbourne, it's my life in their hands. So I put my faith and my trust in them, and I try to follow their recommendations to the letter. Yeah. So with me, what I try and do is focus on things over which I have some control. So with other things that I have no control, I try to not spend my time and effort worrying about them and concentrate my efforts on the other issues that are left behind. So that means that I do things like focus on the big picture. Why am I doing this? What's the meaning of this? Why is this test important? I've got no control over the test or the result, so why would I really be worried about that? If it does get the better of me, I use tricks like divide and conquer, break it into little bite-sized chunks. As my daughter many years ago said to me, "Daddy, one step at a time." Another one is to be ready for curveballs, to be ready for the unexpected. And that's been a hard one for me because I like certainty in what I do in my life, and I like predictability to have an idea of where I'm going. But with cancer, that isn't always the case. So it's a matter with scanxiety, for example, of realising it's there but trying not to let it get the better of me. And another trick that I use, and I've been taught this through general mental health counselling, and that is to surround myself with a number of little boxes. So if I've got a problem, rather than ignore the problem, what I do is I have the problem, I acknowledge it, and then I'll lift up the lid and put it in a box. So it's in the box, I can always go back to it, lift the lid, yes, it's there. But that way it puts me back in control and the scanxiety doesn't get away from me.
I think probably self-talk for me, and also writing down. Probably the worst time for people is at night time when it's quiet, and some people will say have a worry time and go, put all those worries at a particular time, but I find that doesn't work for me. I need to write down how I'm feeling, and I've come up with phrases such as, this is like a marathon. There's no end to it because, well, I hope there's an end, but it's a really emotional roller coaster marathon that you're in. It's definitely okay not to be okay. And I think that's the thing. You do it on your own, but I think the helpful part is you're not alone. There are lots of support groups. There are lots of people through the hospital service that can help you. I did see a psychologist. I was quite angry with my diagnosis because I thought I was healthy, and it really affected every part of my life, including my working career. And I think talking to other people outside of your family and friends can be a really positive experience. And the new Cancer Mind Care website is going to really help a lot of people in a lot of different ways at different stages, because it's not just once you get the cancer diagnosis, it goes on and on and on. Well, I do rely on the meditation. I also do swim. I find water, having showers and that calms me. I have had some crystals, which sound a bit out there, but I would hold them at night. They were cool because I'd often feel hot, and they would be sort of there it could have been anything, but I think it was just because it just made me feel comfortable to actually hold something, yeah. Look, I think everyone is different, and I guess you have to find your support, whatever that might be.
The counselling certainly got me through over a fairly big wall. And I say to men, you can look after yourself physically, but it's the hardwire up here that's going to do your head in. And if you're not travelling well, you've got to get professional help. Unless you're prepared to really talk to your partner or your family, and for some men they won't. You take care of your car, so take care of your body, take care of your hardware. That's my approach, but not every man will want to do that, because in the early days they're probably more focused on the prostate cancer and has it gone, have I got rid of it? I guess dealing with the anxiety is to find out, can you put a finger on what is the anxiety about? So when was your last blood test? How was it? Okay, so it's low, so it's going to go up and down. How are you feeling? What else is going on? Are you still working? Is there pressures others? So I guess it's teasing that anxiety out to find out it might be something quite small that's running in your head. and making it okay not to be okay. I'm not feeling okay with this. I'm feeling a bit anxious. Well, you've just had prostate cancer, and yes, you've had it out, and there's a fear of it coming back. And to look at some strategies or maybe particular booklets that can be read as well. But teasing that anxiety out, I think making it okay for the male to be anxious and feel emotional about it. And maybe say, well, have you had a good cry about this? You know, it's giving you the shits. Have you spoken to someone about it? It's making it okay gives men permission to feel what they're feeling. And for some men, it's difficult.